What's going on, guys, and welcome to today's video. And today we are going to be taking care of an issue that I see with a lot of WJs or older Jeeps for that matter. Unfortunately, Cheap Jeep here does not have the issue, so I can't really show you the issue happening, but we can at least talk about it, and then we are going to actually show and do the repair. Now, the repair, obviously from the title, is the turn signals not working. Now, yes, there's a million different reasons why the turn signals on your WJ or older Jeep aren't working, but what I have found be very, very common is the turn signal flasher relay. Turn signal flasher relay does a few things. It works the turn signals, it works the hazards. It is a very intricate, very multi-pin relay that again works that system. What I see being the issues are you go to hit the turn signal and either nothing lights up, you don't get a solid turn signal, you don't get a fast flashing turn signal, nothing. You turn left, right, turn signal, nothing works, or you turn the turn signal on and I have had the turn signal stay on solid. So there's a few different ways that relay can go bad, and I have found that with, after owning 11 of these WJs, that a lot of them go bad after, or seemingly after that vehicle sits. The last red Jeep that I had sat for like 10 years, and again, the first time I had it running, the turn signals didn't work at all, and it had a issue with that turn signal flasher relay. I've also found the very similar setup on TJ Wranglers. So that, again, this isn't going to be the same teardown as a TJ, but this relay is very, very similar. So turn signals don't work whether they don't turn on or they turn on and stay solid, or the left turn signal works and the right doesn't, vice versa. There's, again, multiple different ways that relay could fail. So yes, we could have a multi-function switch issue, but again, I have found 99% of the time it is the turn signal flasher relay. Now you'd think just, yeah, go grab you one, go buy a new one. These things are actually pretty darn expensive. You can still, I believe, get them through Mopar or aftermarket, but even aftermarket, they're like $40 and $50 for these turn signal flasher relays. So if we can fix it for $0 and make it work, then yeah, I'd much rather do that and still have a factory part instead of a cheap, crummy aftermarket part that you just spent $40 on. So in the WJ's case, let's come around here. So guys, on a WJ, you're going to need to take off this upper panel, which just basically grabs and pulls. Again, if you can get a screwdriver under that and get this popped loose. And then that is out of the way. And then we've got two Phillips screws here on the top. And then at the bottom, we've got a couple of 10mm bolts kind of at each end of this panel. And then we've got a Phillips screw here on the side. Now, once that panel is out of the way, your body control module is going to be immediately behind here. It's got fuses, it's got connectors, it's a whole thing right here behind the dash. And again, once that's out of the way, we're able to look up at that body control module. I'll try to throw a picture of something I find online of the body control module. Able to look up high on that, and there is one relay right here that is twice as long as all of the other standard length relays. So once you get your head cranked up there and grab this relay and get it pulled out, now we're going to be able to take the relay apart and do a little bit of repair on this thing. So guys, now that we've got the relay pulled out of whatever Jeep you're working on, we are going to need to open the top cover of our relay. Just a small screwdriver, and you're going to be able to pry the sides of the relay. And finally, get this thing open. And now, like I said, this is no ordinary relay. This thing is a basically 2 relays in one, and that's why there are so many darn pins on this thing, is because, like you guys can see, we've got 2 relays here, and then all of those capacitors, all of the circuit board. It's a quite crazy, intricate little flasher relay here. Now, what I have found is the issue with these things is the solder joints. And again, it's going to be probably next to impossible for you guys to see here on camera, but right up here at the top, all of these solder joints. So all of these go to corresponding pins here on the top. Now, what I've found is the solder connection between the circuit board and those metal pins have breaks or cracks on the circuit board, or on the solder joint, I should say. Now, again, it's going to be next to impossible for you guys to see here on camera, but this one actually has 2 of the connections cracked. Again, I don't know if you guys can see, but this solder joint right here is cracked. So there's a very, very fine hairline crack between that metal pin and the circuit board in that solder joint. And then this one also right here has another hairline crack on that solder joint right there. All right, I don't know if you guys can see, but the 3rd pin, I'm trying to get a little light on it, has a hairline crack, and that is what causes the issue. Now, to actually fix this thing, obviously we need a soldering iron. Now, no, you do not need a fancy Milwaukee battery-powered soldering iron, but just any old soldering iron will do. Now, I happen to have a very small, almost needle tip for this Milwaukee soldering iron, which does kind of make things a little bit nicer since you are trying to solder on these very small circuit board joints. So I'm going to get this thing warmed up, but all you're doing is just taking that soldering iron and basically just touching. You don't even need to add more solder to these things because there's already enough solder there. It just has a crack in that solder joint. So again, very hard to see here doing small electrical stuff. But again, guys, here we are with our first solder joint and our soldering iron. And just that quick and easy, we were able to reflow that solder and fix that solder joint. Again, here is our second one with a crack in it. And again, just that quick, we've already reflowed the solder. So guys, it definitely does help having a very small pinpointed needle tip for your soldering iron, but I have done it with a normal blade on the end of a soldering iron. So just that easy, you have now saved yourself $50+ on not needing a new flasher relay, and now your turn signals are working and people can tell when you need to turn. While I'm here, I would definitely probably just touch most of those other joints just to make sure there's not a little hairline crack that you can't see, just to reflow those things and make sure it's good before you throw everything back together. Now, once you've got all of those joints checked, again, check over everything else on this circuit board. I personally haven't seen any of the other joints break other than those pins right across the top. But once you're happy that you've got everything taken care of, you can go ahead and put the relay back together. And then you're just going to need to put it back in the vehicle. Now again, here on a WJ, like we kind of showed, it is up high behind those trim panels, kind of a bear to get to. Going back in is even worse because you are just holding this thing up with 2 fingers, trying to get it perfectly in its location. And mind you, it does only go one way. A couple of the pins are angled or faced differently, so you're gonna need to make sure it goes back in. Get a flashlight, get your head up there. It is an absolute pain and almost impossible to get a camera up there. But, and again, on a TJ Wrangler, the flasher relay is going to be up in the steering column area. You're gonna take the shroud apart and it will again be up there. And again, like I said, I have taken care of a TJ by reflowing those solder joints. So guys, kind of a quick, weird niche video on a very specific thing on your older Jeep. But I'm hopeful that this maybe saves somebody some money in the future on not having to buy a brand new, expensive turn signal flasher relay, and you're able to, for $0, throw some solder on this thing, heat it up, and get it back together, because I have very successfully done this on multiple relays now. And yes, it would have been great to show you the actual issue, but unfortunately, this Jeep doesn't have the issue, but I did happen to run across a turn signal flasher relay that had a couple of broken solder joints. So, if you guys have been driving around with broken, non-working turn signals, shame on you, but now hopefully you're able to fix them for nothing and get that thing back on the road. And hopefully the cops won't pull you over now for your turn signals when you are making corners. So guys, thank you so much for coming out in the garage with me and hopefully saving yourself a little bit of money. And guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.